welcome Jon Landau. Amazingly talented director of Alita Battle Angel. Please welcome Robert Rodriguez. She portrays the title character. Please welcome Rosa Salazar as Alita. Please welcome two-time Academy Award winner, Dr. Yukito Christoph Waltz. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to Berlin. This is, I think, the last stop before the big world premiere tomorrow night in London. Correct. Thank you very much for stopping by in Berlin. Let's get started with the lady in the round. Rosa, I think this is an amazing, in my opinion, amazing story about female empowerment, because Alita never backs down and she basically takes every single challenge without exactly knowing why she does it. How would you describe her as a character and especially what she does?
I would describe Alita as a hero. She's not born with extraordinary capabilities. This is something that she acquires along the way, and I think she does this by taking a journey inward. And it is on that journey of self-discovery. You look crazy. It's that journey which empowers her.
Thank you. Robert, the story has it that Guillermo del Toro basically handed the story of Alita to James Cameron. How did you convince Jim that you would be the perfect choice in bringing that whole story to life and on the big screen?
Well, you know, I've known Jim as long. In fact, I met Jim through Guillermo del Toro as well back in 1994. So I've known Jim a long time, and he and I were friends, and we tried to actually make a couple of movies together before. But this one in particular, I just happened to ask as a fan what was going to happen to Battle Angel, because he was getting so busy with the Avatar movies. And he said, I'll never get a chance to direct it, probably. I have this other work to do, but do you want to see what I came up with? And so I was really excited, just as a fan, to look at the script and the artwork he did. I didn't realize he'd done that much work for it. I mean, the script was fantastic. He just never finished it, so it just needed some work. So to convince him, I went and, free of charge, said, let me go for the summer and try and get this down to take 60 pages out magically somehow and show that, you know, I can make a movie out of this without sacrificing the quality of the characters in the story. So I just kind of did that and sent it back to him, and he loved it, John loved it, and they said, it was so fast, he said, I love it, let's do it. So that's kind of what convinced him, was just the fact that I finished the script that he had never had a chance to crack himself.
And you've done a great job, thank you very much. John, you know, the father of the whole story of Alita is basically Yukito Kishiro. He has drawn the manga, and he is sort of like the idea giver. In what way has he been involved while you were doing the movie, and what did he say about the characters and the creation of the world that he sort of made up?
You know, when we first learned of the rights and wanted to acquire them, Jim Cameron flew over and met with Kishiro's son. And he made a commitment to him that when we did the movie, we wouldn't do the Hollywoodized version of it. We would do the cinematic interpretation of his work. And throughout the years, we made him a part of the process. I went back and shared with him the artwork we were working on. I shared with him the script on different trips. I shared with him cut scenes as those were coming to fruition. And one of the two big thrills that I had related to him on the show were, one, when he came to visit our set in Austin, Texas. He had never been outside of Japan before. And he came down to Austin, Texas, where we had built a 97,000 square foot set of Iron City. We walked from the back of the set into Iron City, where the street motorball scene takes place. And Kishiro, who is a man of very few spoken words, many written words, he didn't say anything, but the smile on his face said everything. He had walked into a world that he couldn't imagine would be real one day. And then just this past weekend, I flew to Tokyo, and I screened the entire movie for him. And he rewarded me by saying that we lived up to our promise of living to the world that he had created, and that the movie was more emotional than he thought it would be, and that motorball and the action sequences came to life on a scale that he could not have imagined.
Christoph, we've been talking about, the movie is set in a distant future. In what way do you see parallels between Alita's world and the problems and the themes in our world today? Do you see a lot of relations there?
Soll ich wirklich Englisch sprechen?
Also, Sie können gerne auf Deutsch, mir wurde gesagt, Sie sollen auf Englisch, aber ich freue mich für die Deutsche. Soll ich die Frage noch auf Deutsch stellen?
Die kennen alle meine Antworten auswendig.
Okay, he's going to do it in German because he knows answers.
It's kind of silly. You know my answers, you know.
I agree.
German, I speak English.
Komm, sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Also herzlich willkommen nochmal dabei.
Natürlich eine Geschichte über uns heute, über unsere Welt. Dafür eignet sich Science Fiction so gut. Was wollen wir erzählen über die Zukunft? Wir wollen erzählen und wir wollen erfahren über das, was wir erleben in dieser Welt. Und da macht dieser Film überhaupt keine Ausnahme.
Good. Basically, his answer to a very intelligent question was a very intelligent answer. That's basically this.
We expect nothing else from Christoph, okay?
Thank you so much. Gut, also, jetzt gibt es die Möglichkeit, auch an Herrn Waltz Fragen auf Deutsch zu stellen, wenn Sie möchten. Wir starten direkt hier vorne mit dem Gentleman in the first row. Mikrofon kommt da.
Hello, my name is Rodriguez. I'm a founder and publisher of my own film magazine Spirit, A Smile in the Storm. Thank you for the wonderful movie, especially Rosa did a great job in it. Yes. A question to all. Alita Battle Angel was first published in 1991 and was the manga ahead of its time because instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sly Stallone, he's counting on a little girl as an almost invincible cyborg fighter. And is your film also a feminist statement?
Yeah, I think number one, a timeless story is what attracts Jim Cameron to all the films that he does. It doesn't matter when you tell the story. And Kishiro created a timeless story with universal themes that are relatable. You know, as Rosa said, that we don't view Alita as a hero, a superhero. We view her as a hero, which makes her accessible. And I think we all saw it as a film that is about the empowerment of women, but not just women. It's anybody who, as she says in the movie, thinks of themselves as insignificant. And we've all felt that in our lives. But this movie shows that even those who think of ourselves as insignificant, we have the ability to change people and the world around us.
And sort of going back to the question you were posed about the problems that we see now, I think that she represents all disenfranchised people. And I think that not only women, but all people who have faced a certain level of adversity will find some satisfaction in this film.
Thank you. Question from the gentleman over there in the first row.
Hi, I'm Pavis from RTL West, RTL Television. I'm running a cinema magazine. Let me say, I see Alita this morning, just half an hour ago it ended, and I'm totally flattering, because this was the first movie in a month that makes me cry, so thank you for that.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
I'm glad I made you cry.
And it has a soul. So how important and how difficult was it to bring this emotion to the screen, because I know it was motion captured and it was a very, very great making of the whole team to making a leader more human than a human itself.
It was emotion capture.
Emotion capture, that's right.
Very well.
started the process of making this movie, we know that movies are about the close-up. They're about the performance. And we didn't focus on technology. We focused on casting. Who were we going to find to play this character? And when people say to me, John, you've been involved with this for 20 years, are you glad you waited because of the technology? And I say, no. I'm glad we waited because we found Rosa Salazar. Because that's what separates out. And when she saw the movie, she turned to me and said, that's me up there on the screen.
I so much so that I did what every actress does, and I critiqued my performance. I said, oh my God, on that kissing bridge scene, I'm doing that annoying thing with my mouth, and he looked at me and he said, that's great, because you're critiquing your performance through the CGI body you're driving, so we kept our promise to you.
Also, because of the technology, you might think that it's very difficult to achieve the emotion because she's wearing the suit, she's wearing a microphone. But really, a lot of the work is the casting. When I cast Christoph and Rosa, I mean, they sat in my office, not even on a set, in my office on a little table, and they would rehearse, and you could feel the relationship. You could feel, they're such fine performers and actors that the emotion is there, even in not even on a set. So when she has the outfit on, there's no difference. They know how to connect. They have an instant connection, and we're able to capture that. And when we capture it, then the CG only enhances it because now we can make her a character that an actress couldn't normally play without this technology. So the technology has gotten so good that it kind of gets out of the way. You forget that it's even there. And that's when technology is at its best. Otherwise, if it was constantly being interrupted, it would break the flow of a performance, just the same way if someone was doing a stage performance and people kept going up and adjusting their costume, and that would break the spell. The technology is at a point where it doesn't break the spell, and all of us can they can all get into the moment, and that's why you're able to see that performance finally on the screen. When it's all done, it's because it was actually there on the set. The technology didn't get in the way.
And not green screen sets. Physical sets. When Robert did Sin City, it was green screens, and he did a phenomenal job with that. But this, we wanted to ground the performances in practical sets. So in Ito's lab, we built that. And when Alita goes and sits with him on the couch, Rosa and Christoph were playing that tender moment with each other in a physical set. And I think that makes a big difference as well.
I like that you have a lot of these big action movies, and they blow up 6 square blocks of city, and it's all fine, a big popcorn movie, but it doesn't really matter unless you have the story intact, unless you have the relationships intact. So I like when people say, oh wow, it was so, the action was so crazy, but also I cried. That means that we did both of those jobs. Wow. Thank you.
The gentleman right here in the second row, and the lady over there. Microphone comes.
Thank you. My name is Sheila Wood. I'm just a small part of a community in the internet for visual effects called Indec. My question is, Mr. Rodriguez, could you talk about the eyes? Because I think it's extremely special.
Yes.
I know that I think the original anime also, Alita has these big eyes, and all the rest not. But how was it for you?
The manga that's the hallmark of manga, and we've been seeing those sort of manga eyes since the 30s in Astro Boy, but we never seen it photoreal. And what struck me about this was when Jim did share the script with me a few years ago, he also showed me the art reel that he had put together, the art of what the movie was going to look like back when he was going to direct it in 2005, and photorealistic kind of paintings. And the image that struck me the most was the one of her looking at her doll body with the porcelain arms, and she had the large manga eyes. I thought, oh wow, so that's what he was going to do with this. He was going to make a photoreal manga character that we've never seen photoreal before. To stay true to the original manga, but also you could see that she was so much more emotive than if we had just cast a regular girl. Even in the art, you could tell that it was going to add something. And it's something I used to say about when I would tell people why I was shooting digital, because you could see so clearly into the eyes. I used to say that the eyes are the window to the soul, and that could capture it really well. Well, the eyes are the window to the soul, and her windows are that large. I thought we're going to see so much more emotion in her you'll see the humanity even more of her performance. Even in a wider shot, even before you're in a close-up, she'll feel almost more human than human. And if you feel that with a character that's CG, then that's terrific. And it also gives us a visual element that's different from other pictures. Jim's always done that, whether it's the water pot in the abyss, or the T-1000 liquid metal, or the sinking of the Titanic, or the Avatar world. His contribution to doing something audiences had never seen before for this movie was always going to be the manga. So once I saw that, I went, oh, I've got to do it that way, because that's much bolder, something we've never seen, and it puts you in a hypnotic trance of this character really feels like she's there, and the benefit is that you get so much more emotion through those eyes.
And you're in the visual effects world. Weta Digital told me that there's more detail in one of Alita's eyes than was in all of Gunnm in Lord of the Rings.
Christoph, wir wissen, das hat Robert Rodriguez in einigen Interviews gesagt, dass James Cameron ihm mehr als 1000 Seiten Notes mitgegeben hat in der Entwicklung der Geschichte, 180 Seiten des Skripts. Sie lieben das Spiel ja. Was für Notes oder wie viel haben Sie denn bekommen von Robert und auch James Cameron, was Ihre Figur anging, und wie sehr hat das geholfen und Ihnen auch Spaß gemacht, sich da durchzuarbeiten?
Also es werden jedes Mal mehr sein, aber das werden schon sehr viele gewesen sein. James Cameron hat das entwickelt, das hat sich Gedanken gemacht, weil er den Film selber machen wollte. Und hat ihn dann an Robert, hat es dann wirklich an Robert übergeben. Und Robert hat seine Version draus gemacht. Ich habe natürlich mit James Cameron gesprochen, aber der hat sich nicht in den Film eingemischt. Also das war der Regisseur.
Das ist mir schon klar.
Das heißt,
nach den Notes und nach den Informationen.
Ja, das waren Notes an Robert, nicht an mich. Und ich arbeite sehr gerne, sehr direkt mit dem Regisseur, weil er den Film macht. Und was er dann aus dem Material macht, ist seine Sache, ich meine. Und da hat es sich ehrlich gesagt so von klassischer Filmarbeit überhaupt nicht unterschieden. Wir haben sehr genau gearbeitet, wie man genau arbeitet, ob man jetzt im Theater einen Klassiker probiert oder einen schönen Film machen will. Man darf das Resultat nicht direkt auf die Arbeit übertragen. Das ist, also natürlich darf man das Resultat auf die Arbeit übertragen, aber ich meine, was uns als Schauspieler betrifft, wir haben gemacht, was wir immer machen. Motion Capture oder nicht, das ist ein Detail, das eigentlich überhaupt keine Rolle spielt für das, was Schauspieler untereinander wirklich machen, sich ehrlich zueinander zu verhalten.
Das hat gut geklappt. Vielen Dank. Frage von der Dame hier in der dritten Reihe.
Good morning, my name is Maria Mercedes-Herding. I'm here for the Tagesspiegel. And I wondered how introducing this movie is, especially in a city which also has a history of being divided like Berlin has, especially since you said that how fictional characters and fictional worlds are connected to the real world today.
So I think that we have a responsibility as filmmakers to use science fiction in particular to be a metaphor for the world in which we live. And I think this movie is a great opportunity to let us look at ourselves and how we live lives and realize what's important, in our world is not to be divided, but to bring people together. And, Hugo falls in love with something that he's looked down on all of his life. Looked at them as...
Not only that, but also tried to take advantage of and destroy.
That's right. So it's about, that discovery and bringing things together. And that just because something is in the sky and it looks beautiful from below, that's not necessarily the place where you find happiness.
Question over here, and then we move to the cyborg in the third row.
Frauke Gust vom RBB Radio Berlin, eine Frage an Christoph Waltz. Inwiefern erzählt denn der Film aus Ihrer Sicht etwas über unser Leben heute?
Welche Ebene hätten Sie gern? Das ist ein politischer Film. Das ist ein psychoanalytischer Film. Das ist ein Abenteuerfilm. Das ist ein Liebesfilm. Das hat Elemente von Sentimentalität. Das hat den Nervenkitzel, den Sie durch großartige Stunt- und Action-Szenen bekommen. Welche sollen wir besprechen? Technik und Menschen. Sehr gut. Nicht im Ernst, weil wir hatten mit einem Herrn zu tun, der für eine Firma arbeitet, die Sensoren herstellt, die eines Tages ins menschliche Nervensystem eingeklinkt werden sollen und darüber künstliche Gliedmaßen nicht nur bewegen, sondern durchs Gehirn kontrollieren können. Das ist Gegenwart. Bitte? Na, es ist gruselig, weil da müssen Sie jemanden fragen, der nur einen Arm hat. Weil für uns ist es unheimlich, das heißt aber noch lange nicht, dass es gruselig ist. Für jemanden, der es wirklich brauchen kann, ist es eine technologische Entwicklung, die mehr als nur wertvoll ist. Der Vorschlag von Elon Musk, Sensoren dieser Art in ein Gehirn zu verpflanzen, um über artifizielle Intelligenz den Menschen zu perfektionieren, das halte ich für kindisch.
Question from him.
Hello. I actually forgot my name, but I like your name, Alita. Maybe I will go with Alito.
Okay.
And I have a question. Do you think that robots and humans can be friends one day? And what is the difference between Alita and Pinocchio? And maybe in German for Mr. Waltz. Können Roboter und Menschen jemals Freunde sein? Und was ist der Unterschied zwischen Alita und der Geschichte von Pinocchio?
Like that he has his own sound effects.
Yeah.
No post-production needed.
You know, I think I'll jump in on the Alita, Pinocchio. I think that, Pinocchio really ultimately is an imaginary character that does not have a human element to him. I think that Alita is someone who has a human brain. And the story then becomes about, and you go back to the robot question, which is, what does it mean to be human? Are you human if you have a human body? Are you human if you have a human heart? Are you human if you have a mind and a soul within whatever the form takes? And isn't that really what drives us to humanity? And we talk about the heart and the heart representing love. Well, in fact, love comes from our mind, our consciousness, and that's what love is. And I think that, the idea of this movie is Alita is not a robot. She's a cyborg, and there is a difference. And people with pacemakers are cyborgs, people with prosthetic arms are cyborgs. But it doesn't change the humanity within those people.
Well said.
I was asked to answer in English. The relationship between a robot and a human being, according to attachment theory, a human being can attach himself to anything. So it's up to the human being how he likes to develop a relationship to the robot. I personally would always consider it a machine, but that's just me. And the difference between Alita and Pinocchio, I was asked that question before. Also, Frankenstein and Alita. Now, talking about Ido, in Frankenstein and Pinocchio, Frankenstein uses dead matter to experiment with life. Whether he can, and when he achieves it, inject life into dead matter. In Pinocchio, the wooden boy miraculously turns into something like a real boy. Here, Ido finds a spirit and gives it a body. Life is there already. It's just enabling, and that's a huge difference.
Well said.
Yeah. That spirit once was inhabited by a flesh body. Alita was a girl, and then she lost her own body. So she wasn't just created out of thin air.
Robert, I would like to talk to you really quickly about one of the pivotal scenes in the movie, the bar brawl. Basically, when Alita, tries to find what she's there for, and she tries to challenge like the bad guys. In what way was it important for you to keep it, that dirty? What was your idea of creating that bar brawl, and how long did it actually take it to shoot?
I love the bar brawl scene. It was in the original manga. It was in Jim's script. It was like a 10-minute bar fight, and picking up from where Christoph, the relationship they have is so important. Who found her is very important to who she becomes, because before she doesn't remember who she is. So if somebody like a soldier had found her, she might very easily be nurtured to go back to what she was. If she had her memory, she would know she is simply a bullet fired from a gun. That's all she was a warrior. She didn't have any real humanity to her, because the person who found her nurtures her like a father would nurture a daughter. She becomes a full person and is able to explore life in a different way. And part of any relationship between a child and a parent at some point gets rebellious, so she gets rebellious at some point. It was very important for her to show her conviction. It's a time to challenge the parent, to show that you really are ready to go take on the world. And so she picks the dirtiest, most dangerous bar full of lowlives that she can go in and challenge and show what she can do. And of course she bites off more than she can chew, but that's part of the rebelliousness. So it took about 10 days to film, and in fact I wanted to get it so right that I even looked up on the internet top 10 bar fights ever done, because I wanted to see what bar fights had been done already, just so I don't do something someone else had done, and also just to see where the bar is. And I was shocked. I called Jim right after. I said, I just looked up top 10 bar fights on the internet, and 4 of them are ours. One from Desperado, one from Dusk Till Dawn, one from Terminator, one from Terminator 2. So I said, this must be what we do, so we have to top that one. So I'm making a 10-day schedule now, just to make sure it's, how do you top the other bar fights? It's easy, it's all character work, about 8 of the minutes is actually building up to the fight. And the joke is, a little girl walks into the bar and clears out all the lowlives. So it's going to be a great scene no matter what, because it already has a great twist. But the story and the character and the humanity of the characters are what make the stakes really high, and what makes you ultimately first celebrate her because she's beating everybody up that deserves it, but then really afraid when the true villain walks in and you know that she's got her work cut out for her, and she's not prepared for this, and her father can't even save her at that point. So it's really great dramatics that happen, and that was in Jim's script, and that's what I loved about it. It's less about the action, actually. It's all about the character.
Rosa, picking up on that, we know how important the soul is, and especially growing up and the relationship to her father, of Alita. In what way did you prepare physically? Because the things that Alita does in the brawl fight, for example, we know that she's an armed berserker knowing Panzerkunst. In what way did you sort of get into that character physically?
Well, it took about 3 months to land the role, and I had about an hour to celebrate, and then Jon and Jim and Robert said, okay, great, now tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., you're gonna start training. I said, oh, okay, all right. And I was lean, I was fit, but it was definitely an uphill battle. I did about 2.5 to 3 hours every day for 5 months. And we did a mixture of martial arts to create an amalgamation that would somehow resemble Panzerkunst, which is a martial art, zero gravity martial art. Clearly I cannot defy gravity, although I've tried, but we did our best. We did some Muay Thai, some Eagle Claw, we did a lot of staff work, which I really love, and a lot of kickboxing. Because I wanted to get my endurance up. Jim said, we don't want to do 2 takes and then she's winded. We have 13 hours left to go. Also, I'm doing all of these movements in the performance capture suit, so it takes a lot of endurance to get through not only the day, but some martial arts sequences. So I really threw myself into it head first. Of course, if they say if you're waiting for the bus, light a cigarette, and if you want to work, take a vacation. I was training for the movie, and of course all of these offers started pouring in for other jobs, and I was sort of batting them away quite easily until my friend Eric said, I have this great role for you. You'll get to spend 3 weeks in Modena in Italy, and we'll eat pasta all the time, and it's a wedding scene, so you'll wear Vera Wang in the countryside every day, and what do you say? And I said, I can't, I'm busy. He said, you're busy? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing karate. And my agent even called Jon and said, hey, I don't know if she's going to want to do this or not. And Jon, being a very wonderful man, said, of course, go and do the job. But I didn't want to break focus. I didn't want to stop being Alita. It takes a lifetime to be able to achieve some of these movements. So I said no, and I'm happy that I did, because it really does take all of your energy and a lot of time to push through your limitations. Some days you go in and you're making progress and you feel great and you love yourself and you walk out like, all right. And then the next day you go in and you're absolute crap. And there were many days where I just sobbed because I didn't want to look good. I wanted to be great. So it not only toned my physique, but it also it had helped me get a warrior's mind as well.
You did sensational.
Thank you.
2 more questions. Gentleman right there with the beer and the glasses.
Beer?
Yeah.
And 2 glasses? Come on up.
My name is Nils Schneider from ZDF German Television. I've got a question for Robert. I must admit I'm not familiar with the original manga, but I was wondering, why didn't you give Rosa's love story a happy end?
It is a happy ending. She becomes, it helps.
What was the question? Why did we or didn't we? Didn't we?
Which love story? Because there are 2.
There's several love stories. I mean, what I loved about what Jim focused on in the manga, because the manga has many volumes, there's at least 9 or 10, and it's the first part of her story, and then there's another 20. And it's very true to the manga, this ending, but depends on where it ends. I mean, there's several books. Jim decided to focus on book 1 and book 2, and a little bit of motorball from 3 or 4, and I thought that was like the best Genesis story. So she kind of, like I was saying before she was just a warrior. She was a bullet fired from a gun. She doesn't have a real a sense of humanity. She wasn't nurtured that way from a young child. She was trained to be a warrior. This is backstory. When we find her here, she doesn't remember any of that, but she starts getting glimpses of it. Well, getting this new life on Earth with Ito as the father, Hugo as the boy, seeing life with such innocence and such beauty, shows her a different path. And the fact that she gets to have love and even lose love, or find circumstances that really challenge her and give her a complete sense of humanity, changes who she is by the end. So going forward, she can never go back to being what she was in her previous life. She now knows what it means to have people that you love, and that's going to be just part of her, a chapter in her many chapter story of her life.
Last question from the gentleman all the way in the back.
Yes, thank you for this fantastic movie. My name is Christian from the film school SIA in Berlin-Kreuzberg, and I have a question from how many time did you spend from the beginning of the idea until the finished to the film?
This movie's 20 years in the making. So nearly 20, 19, right? They got the rights in 1999. Jim started working on it for about 5 years. He had a script that he was almost ready to make in 2005. And then it sat idle for some years until I picked it up. But the quest to make this movie was almost 20 years. And then when I got it, that was in 2015 that I got started working on it. So it's been a journey, definitely. And that's why it comes down to the story. If you're going to spend that much time and resources on a story, you have to find the right story to do. And this was such a great, like Jon said, it feels very timely now, but it's because it's timeless. To pick a timeless story, you never go wrong if you find a really great timeless story that you know can capture people's hearts, and that's worth putting the time and work into.
And the nice thing, since Robert came on and we've all been working on this together, I think we've formed not just work relationships, but true friendships, and I'm very grateful for that for everybody up here.
Christoph Waltz is my friend.
Fathers are not supposed to be friends.
I thought you were going to say something in German, and I was going to say, no.
Thank you so much, Jon, Robert, Rosa, and Christoph.
To stand next to Alita for a minute.
Does anyone want a double Alita selfie?
Photo with Alita and Alita.
Okay, cool.
Have a great world premiere tomorrow.
Thank you.
Film startet am 14.2. Meine Damen und Herren, vielen Dank für Ihre Fragen. Einen wunderschönen Tag. Danke.